Hey guys, I'm going to go ahead and go through all of the questions on your homework from this week. It's going to be the one about equations, inequalities, special solutions, along with the application problems and the test review. So if you don't need help on a specific problem, then you're going to be able to fast forward through it. Okay, so on number 1, the first thing we want to do is clear the fractions. Before we do that, let's remember all of our steps for solving. So we always first distribute. 2 is to combine like terms. Remember, you're doing these as necessary, whatever is there. 3, you are going to clear fractions or decimals if you'd like to. 4th is to get our variable on the left. Our 5th thing to do is to get our constant on the right. And our 6th step is to solve. Now remember 4 and 5, you will do those either using addition or subtraction. That's it. You will not ever use multiplication or division to get your variable on the left and your constant on the right. Okay, so for those two, there's that. When you solve for the variable at the very end, so this very last step, that is when you will use multiplication and division. Okay, so number 1, we don't need to distribute or combine like terms, but we need to clear the fraction. So we're going to put parentheses around the left side and the right side, and we need to find our least common denominator between 2, 3, and 6, which would be 6. Then we're going to multiply both sides by 6, which means that you will need to distribute 6 to everything in the parentheses. And we will get 6 times 2/3, which will be 4. 6 times x will be 6x. 6 times a negative 5/2 will be a negative 15. And 6 times a negative 5/6 will be a negative 5. Now we want to combine those like terms that we have right there. So we have 4 plus 6x is equal to a negative 20. And then our variable's already on the left, so to get our constant on the right, we're going to subtract 4 on both sides. And we get 6x is equal to negative 24. And then to solve for x, we're going to divide both sides by 6 to get that x is negative 4. Number 2, we don't need to distribute or combine like terms, but we will go ahead and clear our decimal. So if we look at all of those, our smallest place value, we have tenths, hundredths, and tenths, which would mean our smallest place value is the hundredths. So we multiply both sides by the smallest place value, and then we distribute that to everything in the parentheses. And that will give us 120x minus 5 is equal to negative 350x minus 100. We don't have any like terms to combine. We want to get our variable on the left, so we're going to add 350x. And we get 470x minus 5 is equal to a negative 100. We want our constants on the right, so we're going to add 5 to both sides. And we get 470x is equal to a negative 95. And then to solve for x, we're going to divide both sides by 470. And you plug that in your calculator and get that it simplifies to negative 19 over 94. For number 3, our first step, we're going to want to distribute. So we will distribute negative 3, and we will also distribute this negative 1. If you need to put the 1 there, then put the 1 there. When we distribute, we get negative 3g plus 9 minus g plus 4 is equal to negative 35. And then we're going to combine our like terms. So we have negative 3g and negative g, which would be a negative 4g. And then we have 9 plus 4, which is 13. Our variable is already on the left, so we need our constant on the right by subtracting 13 on both sides. And we get negative 4g is equal to a negative 48. And then to solve, we will divide both sides by negative 4 to get that g is equal to 12. And remember, guys, the best thing with equations is that you can always go back and check your work. So you would take your answer and plug it in and make sure that the left side equals the right side. Number 4, our first step here will be to distribute. So we have 3x plus 7x plus 1 is equal to 10x plus 2. And then you're going to want to combine your like terms. So we have 10x plus 1 is equal to 10x plus 2. We want to get our variable on the left. So we're going to subtract 10x on both sides, which will give us 0 plus 1 is equal to 2. And if we were to simplify that right there, we would get 1 is equal to 2, which is not true. And when you get this false statement, that means that your answer to this equation is no solution. And that's one of our special solutions. Number 5, we do not need to distribute, but we do need to combine our like terms. So we have v minus 9/10 v. Remember, there's a 1 in front of v, which the equivalent to 1 as a fraction would be 10 over 10. So really we have 10 over 10v minus 9 over 10v, which would be 1/10 v plus 6 is equal to 4/5 v plus 7. And you could go ahead and clear the fractions. If you have a calculator, then it might be easier to just deal with them. I'm going to go ahead and clear the fractions just so that you'll see that process. Our LCD between 5 and 10 is 10. So we're going to multiply both sides by 10, which means that you have to distribute 10. And 10 times 1/10 is going to be 1v. 10 times 6 is 60. And that's equal to 10 times 4/5 v, which would be 8v plus 70. And then we want to get our variable on the left, with v on the next. So those cancel. 1v minus 8v is a negative 7v plus 60 is equal to 70. We want our constant on the right, so we subtract 60 on both sides. And we get negative 7v is equal to 10. And then we divide both sides by negative 7 to get that 10, or v is equal to a negative 10 sevenths. Number 6. We are first going to distribute, which would be right there. And then right here we need to distribute that negative. 1/4 times 12 is going to be 3x. 1/4 times the negative 8 is going to be negative 2. Then we bring down the 3/2 x, and that's going to be equal to, we bring down the 1/3 x, and a negative 1 times negative 2x is a positive 2x, and a negative 1 times a positive 1 is a negative 1. What I would do now is clear my fractions. You could combine these if you wanted to combine those like terms. You could do that. Either way, you get the same answer. That way just might be a little bit more work since there's fractions and whole numbers. So our LCD of 2 and 3 would be 6. So we're going to multiply both sides by 6, which means we have to distribute the 6 3 times on each side. When we distribute that 6, we get 18x minus 12 plus 9x is equal to, and on this side we get 2x plus 12x minus 6. And now we can combine those like terms. So we have 27x minus 12 is equal to 14x minus 6. And then we want our variable on the left, so we subtract 14x on both sides. To get 13x minus 12 is equal to negative 6. And then we want our constant on both sides. To get 13x is equal to 6. And then we divide both sides by 13 to get that x is equal to 6 over 13. Number 7, our first step is to distribute. So we have x plus 2x plus 3 plus 3 is equal to 3x plus 6. And then we're going to want to combine our like terms. So we have x and 2x, which would be 3x. 3 plus 3 is 6. And then you're going to want to get your variable on the left. And we get that 6 is equal to 6. That is a true statement. And since that is true, which you could have also seen it right here, 3x plus 6 is equal to 3x plus 6, which again is true. So you could have stopped right there and said the answer is all real numbers. So when we have a true statement, it's all real numbers. When we have a false statement, it is no solution. On number 8, we don't need to distribute, but we do need to combine like terms. So then we get 3 halves x plus 7 is equal to, over on this side, we have 4x minus 5 halves x. And you could just leave that and then clear your fractions so you don't have to worry about those before you combine them. So our LCD is 2. And we are going to multiply both sides by 2 and then distribute the 2. And when we do that, we get 3x plus 14 is equal to 8x minus 5x. Now you can go and combine those. And we get 3x plus 14 is equal to 3x. We want to get our variable on the left side. So that gives us 0 plus 14 is equal to 0, which is saying that 14 is equal to 0, which is not true. That is a false statement. And so our answer is no solution. And you could have also noticed right here that that was a false statement because it says that 3x plus 14 is equal to 3x, which is not a true statement. Number 9, we first need to distribute. These are our rules for these are our inequalities, which have the exact same steps, except on step 6, when you solve, if you multiply or divide both sides by a negative, you have to flip the side. So do not forget to do that on these questions. All right, so on number 9, we're going to first distribute and distribute on the right side. We get 5x minus x plus 8 is greater than 9 plus 6x minus 9. And we'll combine our like terms on the left and on the right, which is canceling out. We're going to get our variable on the left. And if there's nothing on that right side, you just put a 0. And then we're going to get our constant on the right. So we have negative 2x is greater than negative 8. And then we're going to divide both sides by negative 2 to solve. And this is where we flip the sign because we divided both sides by negative. Number 10, I would go ahead and clear your fractions. We don't have to distribute. We don't have to combine like terms. So our LCD of 5 and 3 would be 15. So we're going to put parentheses on both sides, multiply by 15, and distribute the 15. So we have 15 times the negative x, which is a negative 15x divided by 3 is going to give you a negative 5x. 15 times 1 is 15, and that's greater than or equal to, on this side we have 15 times the negative 3x, which is a negative 45x, divided by 5 would be a negative 9x. So remember, when you're multiplying a whole number by a fraction, you multiply by the numerator and then divide by the denominator. Okay, now we want our variable on the left. So we're going to add 9x on both sides, and we get 4x plus 15 is greater than or equal to 0. We will subtract both sides by 15 to get our constant on the right, and we get 4x is greater than or equal to negative 15. Divide both sides by 4 to get that x is greater than or equal to negative 15 over 4. For number 11, this is just a proportion, so you're going to cross multiply the sides. So we're going to multiply diagonally here, so that will be 4 times 2x minus 1, and then I'm going to multiply diagonally right there, which would be negative 5 times x minus 2. Remember, you're multiplying the entire numerator by the entire denominator, so that's why we're putting parentheses around it, so that you see that it's this whole thing times this whole thing, which is going to force you to distribute. So that will be 8x minus 4 is equal to negative 5x plus 10. We cannot combine, but we want to get our variable on the left. So we'll add 5x on both sides. And we want our constant on the right, so we'll add 4 to both sides. And 13x is equal to 14. We will divide both sides by 13 to get x is equal to 14 over 13. And our last one for this homework, we first need to distribute on the left and on the right. So that will give us a negative x plus 5 plus 3x minus 2 is equal to 2x minus 2 plus 5. After we distribute, we combine like terms. And then we'll subtract 2x on both sides to get our variable on the left. We get 0 plus 3 is equal to 3. And if you simplify that right there, you get 3 is equal to 3. That is a true statement. So remember, if it is a true statement, your answer is all real numbers. And you could have also seen that right here where it said 2x plus 3 is equal to 2x plus 3, which is a true statement. Alright, so there's that homework. Now I'm going to go through the application homework. Alright, so we just need to write the equation, expression, or inequality, and we don't need to solve it. So we have 85 less, remember less means subtraction, 2/3 of means multiplication of a number, let's use y, is the equal sign 67. So now what I would do is I would make sure, are there any turnaround words? And if there's not, which there isn't, then we just write it like it is. So 85 minus 2/3 times y is equal to 67. Number 2, 10 less than. So less than can either be subtraction or it could be the less than or less than simple. So let's just keep that one in mind right there and see. 10 less than the quantity 4 times a number, which is x, is at most, and at most is the symbol less than or equal to 42. So because we have this symbol, that means that this less than is subtraction. And we got to remember that less than is a turnaround word. So whatever was first will become second. It will become after the subtraction sign. Whatever was after the subtraction sign is going to be first and is at most 42. Number 3, the number of students in a swimming class is 4 more than. So remember, more than can be addition or it could be the greater than symbol. So let's just wait. More than 9 times the number of students in a diving class. So that more than is just addition in this case. So our expression is 4 plus 9x. All right, Number 4, so we need to write an equation or inequality and then solve it. So Keith has $500 in a savings account at the beginning of summer. He wants to have at least $200 in the account by the end of summer. He withdraws $25 each week for food, clothes, and movies. How many weeks can Keith draw money from his account? So we first want to define our variable. X is the number of weeks. Okay, he starts with $500 and he's going to spend $25 each week. So this 25 each week is representative of 25x, since x is the number of weeks and we're subtracting it because he's withdrawing it. It needs to be, we need to have at least $200, and at least is greater than or equal to the $200. To solve this, you would subtract 500 on both sides to get negative 25x is greater than or equal to negative 300. And then you would divide both sides by negative 25. And when you divide both sides by a negative, you flip the sign, and negative 300 divided by negative 25 is 12. So your answer, how many weeks can Keith withdraw money from his account? Well, he can withdraw it for 12 weeks or less. Yellow cab taxi charges $1.75 flat rate in addition to 65 cents per mile. Katie has no more than $10 to spend on a ride. How many miles can Katie travel without exceeding her limit? So x is equal to the number of miles. So they are going to charge you $1.75 flat rate plus 65 cents per mile. Per is multiplication and number of miles is x. She has no more than $10 to spend, and no more than would be less than or equal to $10. However much this cost has to be less than or equal to that 10. So to solve, we're going to subtract $1.75 on both sides. And we get 8.25. And then we will divide both sides by 0.65. When we do that, we get this decimal here, 12.69, and it keeps going on. So we have to think about this logically. If the cab took Katie 13 miles, if we rounded that up, if this were 13, would she spend more than $10? And she would. So even though this 0.6 tells you to round up, you've got to be careful on word problems and make sure that it makes sense. So Katie can travel for 12 miles or less. So that answer would technically be x is less than or equal to 12 miles. Number 6, if the measures of two supplementary angles, and remember supplementary means that they add to equal 180 degrees, are 2x minus 4 and 2x, what is the value of x? So we are going to take these two angles, 2x minus 4, and add them together and set them equal to 180 to find what x is. So we'll combine our like terms and we get 4x minus 4 is equal to 180. We will add 4 to both sides, and we get 4x is equal to 184. And then divide both sides by 4 to get that x is equal to 46. And there's no units that you need for that one. Number 7, Keith and Michelle went out to dinner. The total cost of the meal, including tip, came out to be $52.70. If the combined tip came out to $9.60 and each person spent an equal amount, how much did each friend pay, not including the tip? So what are we trying to find, which is what x is? That would be the amount each paid. Okay, so the tip was $9.60. And Keith and Michelle, they're 2 people. So that's why we're going to take the 2 of them and multiply that by the amount that each of them paid. Okay, so this combination, the amount that each of them paid plus the tip, has to equal the total that they paid. So now we can subtract $9.60 on both sides, and we will get 2x is equal to $43.10, and then divide both sides by 2 to get that x is equal to $21.55 that each of them paid. So far we've had all equations where the left side is equal to the right side. Now we have an inequality. So Adrienne works in New York and makes $42 per hour. She works in an office and must get her suit dry cleaned every day for $75. She wants to make more than $260 a day. At least how many hours must she work? So we need to define our variable. X is equal to the number of hours. We should notice that we see at least that much money, which means that it needs to be the symbol greater than or equal to. So she makes $42 per hour, so that'd be 42 times the number of hours, which would be X. And she's going to spend $75 a day from that. And that total needs to be at least, which would be greater than or equal, $260. So now we can solve. So we're going to add $75 to both sides to get 42x is greater than or equal to $335. And then we'll divide both sides by 42. And we get that x is greater than or equal to 7.98. And it keeps going, which would mean that Adrienne needs to work for at least 8 hours a day. Because for that answer, you'd round that 7.98 up to 8, because that's the only way that Adrienne would make at least $260. Number 9, we want to figure out what x is. So we're going to add all 5 sides up and set it equal to the perimeter. So we have x plus 5 plus 20 plus x plus 5 plus another x, and that's got to equal to 58, the perimeter. So we're going to combine our x's. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 x's. And we're going to combine our constants, which come out to 30. And then we're going to solve. So our variable's already on the left, and we get the constant on the right. So we get 4x is equal to 28. And then we're going to divide both sides by 4 to get that x is 7 units. Right, number 10, the diameter of a small pizza is 16 centimeters. This is 2 centimeters more than 2/5 of the diameter of the large pizza. What is the diameter of the large pizza? So x is equal to the diameter of the large pizza. We need to decide if it is an equation or an inequality. And this one is an equation because they're saying that the small one is equal to 2/5, or the large pizza, sorry. The small pizza is equal to 2/5 of the large one plus 2. So that's why it's an equation. So we have the diameter of the small pizza, which is 16. And this is 2 more than, so more than would be addition, 2/5 of, which is multiplication, that diameter of the large one. And the diameter of the large one is x. So now we can solve. We want to get our variable on the left. So we're going to subtract 2/5 on x on both sides. And we're going to subtract 16 to get on the right because that's where we want it. So we have negative 2/5 x is equal to negative 14. And then we're going to divide both sides by negative 2/5. And we get that x is equal to 35 centimeters. Number 11, the area of the isosceles triangle is 60 units. So let's remember that the area of a triangle formula is the base times height divided by 2. So we need to solve for x. So So our base right here is 10. Our height is right there where the 90-degree angle is, which is x plus 3. There it is. X plus 3 divided by 2, and that is equal to 60, which is the area. So we first have to multiply both sides by 2. We've got to get rid of the denominator. If you have multiple things in the numerator, the only way to deal with those is to get rid of the denominator. So we'll multiply both sides by 2. So we have 10 times x plus 3 is equal to 120. And then we can distribute to get 10x plus 30 is equal to 120. We're going to subtract 30 on both sides to get 10x is equal to 90. And divide both sides by 10 to get that x is equal to 9. And now we need to find the perimeter of the triangle. So x is 9, which means that this height is now 12. And we have a right triangle here. So it's got a leg of 5 and a leg of 12, and now we need to find the hypotenuse. So that would be 5 squared plus 12 squared is equal to c squared. That would be 169 is equal to c squared. And when we took the square root of both sides, c would be 13. So this side is 13 and this side is 13. So our perimeter is the two sides that are 13 plus the base, which is 10. And we would get that our perimeter is 36 units. Okay, now last but not least is the test review. Alright, so on the test review we have some evaluating first. So we're going to plug everything in and put parentheses around it. So we have negative 1/3 for x over 1/27 minus another x, which would be negative 1/3 squared times y, which is negative 9. We are first going to cube that negative 1/3. So we have negative 1/3 cubed. And we're going to get negative 1/27 divided by 1/27 minus negative 1/3 squared is going to be 1/9 times negative 9. So we got our exponents out of the way. So now we have division, subtraction, and multiplication, and we do the division first. So we have negative 1/27 divided by 1/27. And we get negative 1 minus 1/9 times negative 9. So now we need to do the multiplication. 1/9 times negative 9 is negative 1. So then that will give us negative 1 minus negative 1. And if we did keep, change, we would get negative 1 plus 1, which is equal to 0. Number 2, we need to simplify this expression. So we are going to work with our parentheses first, which would be right here in the brackets. And within the brackets, you do your PEMDAS first. You do your parentheses. So 90 divided by 10, 1/8 times 4 squared. Alright, so then we are going to do our exponents. So 4 squared would be 16. Then we can multiply. So 16 times 1/8 would be 2. So now we have 90 divided by 10 times 2 plus 18 to the 0 power plus, I should probably write this up here. Okay, so we have 90 divided by 10 times 2 plus 18 to the 0 power plus negative 3 squared times negative 4 divided by negative 6 squared minus the absolute value of 2 minus 5 squared. Alright, so now we can go through and do our exponents. Remember, absolute values are formed with parentheses too, so we'll do that all in one. So we get 90 divided by 10 times 2 plus 18 to the 0 power is 1 plus, and then over here we have the opposite of 3 squared, which would be a negative 9 times negative 4 over negative 6 squared, which would be 36 minus the absolute value of 2 minus 5 is negative 3, and the absolute value of negative 3 is 3, so 3 squared would be 9. Now we can continue working. We have this division first. Let's go ahead and we'll simplify this. I'm just going to erase that, so I'm taking up room. So it was negative 9 times a negative 4, which is a negative 36. And now we can just work our way left to right. So 90 divided by 10 would be 9. 9 times 2 would be 18. So we have 18 plus 1 plus, then we have more division. Negative 36 divided by 36 is a negative 1 minus 9. So now we just have addition and subtraction, and we're going to work left to right. So 18 plus 1 is 19. 19 plus a negative 1, which is just 19 minus 1 is 18. And 18 minus 9 is going to give you 11. Nope. Oh, sorry guys. This is not a negative. It was a negative 9 times a negative 4, which is a positive 36. So we have 18 plus 1 minus 9. There we go. So 18 plus 1, 19. 19 plus 1 is 20. 20 minus 9 is equal to 11. There we go. Okay, on B, we just need to simplify. So we are going to distribute 3 times right there, and then another 3 times right there. So 1/10 times the negative 30x is going to be a negative 3x. 1/10 times 50.5 is going to be 5.05y. 1/10 times the negative 10z is going to be a negative z. Negative 8 times 2x is going to be a negative 16x. Negative 8 times negative 3y is going to be a positive 24y. Negative 8 times 5 is going to be a negative 40. And now we will combine our like terms. So z and negative 40 don't have anything to combine with. And remember, these need to go in alphabetical order with your constant at the end. So negative 3x plus, or negative 3x minus 16x is a negative 19x. 5.05y plus 24y is going to be 29.05y minus z minus 40. Number 3, which column has a greater value? So you don't even need to figure these out. We just want to know which one's positive and which one's negative. So a negative times a positive is a negative times a negative is a positive, and a positive times a positive is a positive. Over here, a positive times a negative is a negative times a positive is a negative times another positive is equal to a negative. So, because we know this one is positive and this one's negative, all we know is that column A is greater than B, and the quantity in column A is greater, so our answer would be I. On B, which column makes a perfect square? So we need to simplify these. So we do our square root first, and that would be 2 times 10 minus 29 we do our multiplication first. So that would be 20 minus 29, which is equal to negative 9. You cannot take a square root of a negative. That is an imaginary number. So we know column A is not right, but let me show you column B. So we have 66 minus 5 times 10. Remember, we got to do this. A square root is a form of an exponent, so we got to do that first. And then we're going to do our multiplication. So we have 66 minus 50, which is equal to 16, which is a perfect square. So our answer would be 2, that the quantity in column B is a perfect square. Number 4, determine if each expression will have a positive or negative outcome. All right, so because this is a even power, that will be a positive answer, because that's going to be a negative times a negative, which would be a positive. On number 3, we have an odd power, and then it's going to be multiplied to a negative as well. So we have a negative times 3 positives, which will be a negative answer. On number 4, here we have a even exponent, so that will give us a positive answer. But just to show you, that's going to be 4 negatives times each other, which will end up being a positive. On D, we have an odd power, which will come out being a negative. So it's a negative times itself 5 times, and that comes out to be a negative. And then again, we have a negative 4 to the 5th power, so it's going to be a negative when I multiply these 5 negatives together. And then we get a negative times a negative, which will equal a positive. Number 5, solve multi-step equations with special solutions. What kind of equation gives you an answer of no solution? And that would be an equation where the left side doesn't equal the right side. And an example of that would be if you had 5x plus 12 was equal to 5x plus 11. Those are not the same, so that would be no solution. What kind of equation gives you an answer of all real numbers? That would be the exact opposite. So it would be an equation where the left side equals the right side. So for example, 5x plus 12 is equal to 5x plus 12. Okay, for C, we need to solve this equation. So we are first going to distribute right there and distribute that negative. 1/5 times 5 is 1x. 1/5 times negative 15 is negative 3. Plus 1/6x is equal to 1/3 x plus 3x minus 5. So after we distribute, we need to combine our like terms. Again, you can deal with these fractions if you want to, or you can clear them and then combine. Either way, you'll get the same answer. Because this is 1, that's easy to convert to a fraction in order to subtract, or in order to add the 1/6. So 1 is equal to 6/6, so 6/6 plus 1/6 is 7/6x minus 3 is equal to 1/3 x plus 3x minus 5, and I'm just going to leave that one and combine it when I clear the fractions. So my LCD is 6. 6 times 7/6x is 7x. 6 times 3 is negative 21. 6 times 1/3 x is 2x. 6 times 3x is 18. And 6 times a negative 5 is negative 30. So now we can combine those. So we get 7x minus 21 is equal to 20x minus 30. I want my constant on the left, so I'm going to subtract 20x on both sides. I want my constant on the right, so I'm going to add 21 to both sides. 7 minus 20 is a negative 13x is equal to negative 30 minus, this should be 18, 21. It would be a negative 12. And then we're going to divide both sides by negative 13. And a negative divided by negative is a positive 12/13. D. So you need to distribute first. So we get a negative 0.11r plus 0.11r plus 0.44 is equal to 0.44 plus 0.1r. So after we distribute, we need to combine our like terms. A negative 0.11r plus 0.11r ends up to be 0. So then we have 0.44 is equal to 0.44 plus 0.1r. We want to get our variable on the left. We want to get our constant on the right. And that leaves us with 0.1r is equal to 0.44 minus 0.44 is equal to 0. And then you would divide both sides by 0.1 to get that r is equal to 0. Now for some of the application problems. Find the area of the square if the perimeter of the triangle and the square are the same. So we have a triangle right here. We have a triangle and we have a square, and their perimeters are the same. The sides of the triangle are 2x, 2x, and 14 meters. And the height of the triangle is 4 meters. So the height would be the distance from the base to the highest vertex. It would be 4 meters. And the side of the square is 4x minus 1. So we need, knowing that these perimeters are the same, we can then use that to find x to then find the area of the square. So the perimeter of the triangle is equal to the perimeter of the square. The perimeter of the triangle is going to be the three sides added together. So 2x plus 2x plus 14 is equal to the perimeter of the square, which would be 4 times one of the sides. And now we can solve this equation. We're going to combine our like terms on the left, and we're going to distribute on the right. And then we're going to subtract 16x on both sides to get our variable on the left. And that gives us a negative 12x plus 14 is equal to negative 4. Subtract 14 on both sides. We get negative 12x is equal to a negative 18. And then we're going to divide both sides by negative 12. And we get that x is equal to 1.5. So now that we know what x is, we can find the area of the square. So I'm going to plug in 1.5 for x. So 4 times 1.5 minus 1 is equal to 5. And how do we find the area of a square? Well, it's a equals s squared, which would be 5 squared, which would be 25 square meters. B says Paul has $180 but spends $2 per day for parking. Tina has $150 and pays $1.50 per day for parking. After how many days will Tina and Paul have the same amount? So since it's the same, it's going to be an equation. So we want to know when will Tina equal Paul, And we want to know what x is, which would be the number of days. So Paul starts with $180, but he spends $2 per day, which would be 2x. Per is multiply, days are x. And Tina has $150, but she spends $1.50 per day. And now we can solve this inequality. So we're going to add 2x on both sides. And we're going to subtract 150 to get it onto the right side. And when we do that, we get 0.5x is equal to 30. And then we're going to divide both sides by 0.5 to get that x is equal to 60 days. C, a pair of jeans costs $6 less than 5 times the jacket. So for this one, this is just an expression. Okay, so what we're talking about is that what are the cost of the jeans? Well, the cost of the jeans are 5 times less than the jacket, which is x, and it's $6 less than that. And remember, less than's our turnaround phrase, so we have to flip these. So this expression would be 5x minus 6. Number 7, we are getting into inequalities now. So remember, if you have multiple things in a numerator, in order to even do anything up there, you got to get rid of that denominator. So we're going to multiply both sides by -4. We get 2x is greater than or equal to 36. Remember, if you multiply or divide both sides by negative, you flip the sign. Now we can divide both sides by 2 to get x is greater than or equal to 18. On B, we need to distribute first. So we have -24 plus 3y is greater than 3. Our variable's on the left, so we need to get our constant on the right by adding 24. And we get 3y is greater than 27. And then we'll divide both sides by 3 to get that y is greater than 9. And on our last page, now we're going to write and solve these inequalities. So we have 18 less, which is subtraction, half of a number, and of is multiplication, of a number is an equal sign. Okay. More than is our greater than symbol, 12. So double check, make sure you don't have any turnaround words, which we do not in this case. So you just write it like it is written. On B, 15, less than. So less than can be subtraction, or it could be a less than symbol, but hopefully you see at most, which is less than or equal to, so there's our symbol, which means this has to be subtraction. 3 times a number is at most 28. So before you rewrite it, make sure and see if you have any turnaround words, which we do. So you need to rewrite that as 3x minus 15 is less than or equal to 28. I forgot that we needed to solve these. So you're going to add 15 on both sides, and you get 3x is less than or equal to 43. Divide both sides by 3 to get x is less than or equal to 43 over 3. And over here on this one, 18 minus 1/2 x is greater than 12. So our variable is already on the left, so we're going to subtract 18 to get our constant on the right. And we have a negative 1/2 x is greater than negative 6. And now we are going to divide both sides by negative 1/2 because that's multiplied. And when you multiply or divide both sides by negative, you flip the sign. And so we have negative 6 divided by negative 1/2, what you would keep, change, and flip. That's what you do when you divide by a fraction. So that's really negative 6 times the reciprocal, which would be negative 2. So x is less than 12. And our last one, there's a deal at the store where you can buy one pair of jeans for $38, and then every t-shirt you buy will only cost $5. If you have $82 to spend, how many t-shirts can you get with the jeans? So x is equal to the number of shirts. That's what we want to know. The jeans are $38, and you're going to add on $5 for every shirt. And so x is the number of shirts, and that's what we want to know. And you only have $82 to spend, so the symbol would be less than or equal to, because you can't spend any more than that. So now we will solve. We'll subtract 38 on both sides because your variable's already on the left. 82 minus 38 is 44. And then you'll divide both sides by 5 to get that x is less than or equal to 8.8, and I believe that goes on. So now you gotta decide, do you round up to 9 or do you round down to 8? If we round it up to 9 based on, I know that this says 0.8, so we would round up to 9. If we did that though, you would end up spending more than $82. So for this one, we're going to round down to 8 shirts. Okay guys, if y'all have any questions about anything, please let me know.